why it's coming out now is we wanted to wait, to get through all of the legal proceedings, the criminal trial, and it's 4 parts, and it spans over 30 years of, pop culture, his life. So it took some time, to say the least, to put all of this together.
It's an important story, and you could just tell it with all the public material. Mm-hmm. You go further, you've gotten your hands on some extra new material people are going to see for the first time, including this video. Any journalist would want to know how you got it, but it is Sean Diddy Combs in the heat of this, right before the arrest for the trial we just discussed, in private moments, talking to his lawyer, cameras running. He
also underestimated that a lot, some of, with every celebrity, you do have different claims, and some are completely unfounded. But I think that some of these lawsuits, there's receipts, mm-hmm. and there's footage, and there's voice recordings. And I think that for a man, it's also very interesting, for the culture of hip hop, so many artists record themselves, and they probably, when they were, recording themselves in 2005, never saw the year 2025 and how accessible that media would be to actually make a case for things. And I think that's a big part of the
50 Cent's latest Netflix documentary premiered on Tuesday, and within hours, it became impossible to ignore. Social media timelines were flooded, hip-hop forums were on fire, and fans across the globe tuned in to witness what many are calling one of the most intense music documentaries of recent years. From its very first moments, the film makes one thing clear: this is not a celebration piece. It is an investigation, a reckoning, and a deep dive into a world that few outsiders were ever.
Only they can answer that question. I have my own opinion, but I wouldn't slander their name like they did mine. I wouldn't say things that I knew, you know what I mean? I believe so. I do believe so. I have proved things that I can say that will back up my claim, but this is not for the world to know about. You know what I mean? It's between me and him, and only he knows. So every time he say it didn't happen, or that's the only thing that makes this become an issue to everybody. Because you seen what I said in the Bible, right? I basically bowed out and was going to go ahead about my life. The next issue, that wasn't even the next issue, because them cowards waited about 4 issues before they got their story together. 4 issues later, half of New York is commenting on me getting shot. And before, they was all like, we didn't see nothing. In the first issue, we did, Vibe viewers. Nobody seen shit. The 4th issue, when they came back with a reply, everybody knew what I did. They knew what I said. I was acting. Who gets shot 5 times in acts? Oh, I didn't get shot 5 times in their vision. I only got shot once because they found the bullet. The police found it, but now they the cops. Now they doing detective work. They found the bullet. Oh, you found the bullet, huh? So what is this other shit in me then? What was the doctor talking about? What? Can you explain these other holes in me? I like your gunpowder all over me. That insulted my intelligence. So yes, I did say Thug Life was there. Yes, I bowed out, all of that.
Allowed to see. The documentary moves with sharp pacing and deliberate intent, gripping viewers through a combination of rare footage, powerful storytelling, and emotionally charged testimonies. Unlike traditional music documentaries that glorify success, this project pulls back the curtain on the cost of fame, power, and unchecked influence. At the center of it all stands Sean Diddy Combs, a cultural icon, business mogul, and one of the most controversial figures in hip-hop history. Rather than relying on sensational headlines or recycled media narratives, the film places its focus on voices that were once silenced or ignored. Former insiders, people who lived.
From Greg Kading, the detective that worked on Tupac and Biggie's case in this documentary. He is the investigator that did that proffer agreement with Keepy D way back in 2008, where Keepy D alleged that Diddy tried to offer him $1 million to take out Tupac and Suge Knight. And Tupac's trial with Keepy D is coming up very soon in early 2026. And we know that Diddy's name has been dropped at least 200 times during these proceedings already.
Created the atmosphere for both of those guys to lose their life.
I honestly, when I look back on it, if he trusted Sean more, it would have been better. But he didn't trust him as much as the way Sean says they were best friends after he was dead. No, I didn't see that during the time we were working.
And worked within Diddy's inner circle. step forward to share their experiences. These are not outsiders speculating from afar. These are individuals who witnessed the machinery of Bad Boy Records from the inside, long before the public ever suspected there was another side to the story. What makes the documentary especially compelling is its use of behind-the-scenes material that has never been widely seen. Old studio recordings, backstage moments, private conversations, and unreleased visuals are woven into the narrative, creating a layered portrait of an empire built on ambition, talent, and conflict. The
Films have now sent a cease and desist letter to Netflix.
That's right. They are demanding it not release a docuseries featuring.
film carefully traces Diddy's meteoric rise, highlighting his sharp instincts, relentless drive, and undeniable impact on music and fashion. But it does not stop there. As the story unfolds, the tone begins to shift. Success gives way to tension. Loyalty begins to crack. And the lines between leadership and control start to blur. One of the documentary's central themes is the atmosphere inside Bad Boy Records during its most turbulent years, particularly in the aftermath of two devastating losses that shook hip-hop to its core. The deaths of the notorious B.I.G. and Tupac. Shocker. These tragedies didn't just mark the end of an era. They intensified the already volatile East.
I'm waiting the whole time for Aubrey O'Day to reveal some major story that happened between her and Diddy. 3 episodes in, she's basically just talking about Diddy in a very general way. It isn't until the 4th episode that Aubrey reveals a witness walked in on Aubrey O'Day completely inebriated with Diddy doing things to her, as well as a second man who they refer to as a light-skinned, tall man. Details are very explicit and not anything I could share on here. This witness revealed that it was 100% Aubrey O'Day. It was really uncertain in watching Aubrey's reaction and kind of resharing this story whether or not she fully recollected the situation. He says it couldn't have been her choice to become inebriated because that was never her issue. She never really drank a whole ton. The earlier parts of this series, Aubrey does reveal these series of emails that she got from Diddy. They were all in very sexual nature, in a very sexual tone. He's basically asking her to come over and do certain things with him. It's these very domineering emails where he's basically setting the tone that he's the boss. She says that she felt very uncomfortable about those emails and
Coast-West Coast rivalry and left emotional scars that never fully healed. The documentary introduces a new group of former Bad Boy affiliates and artists, many of whom are speaking in this context for the first time. Their stories are not presented as legal evidence or definitive proof of wrongdoing. Instead, they are shared as deeply personal recollections, memories shaped by confusion, fear, loyalty, and unanswered questions that lingered long after the spotlight moved on. Rapper Mark Curry offers one of the most emotionally raw perspectives. He recalls an environment that felt increasingly unstable, where expectations were high, but support was inconsistent.
Bad Boy, we had gotten over CCNY. It looked like the coast was clear. We were renegotiating with Arista. We were about to get a step up in the money. I had 25% of the company. I didn't know why he needed to get that back from me and then give it back to me again. I didn't understand that. That's like a trick, like, okay, here, I gave it to you, now give it back, and don't worry, I'm gonna give it right back to you. I didn't want to give it up. So he came into my office one day unexpected, him and Kenny Marsalis, they had it planned out. Kenny had the briefcase with all the stock certificates in it, and Diddy had the bat. Not like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you with the bat, but he had the bat like, man, we got to do this. This has to happen. I didn't feel I was going to get beat down in that office, in all honesty. I got people that can jump out of the shadows in a minute. I wasn't threatened by him. What I was messed up over was the fact that I started this company with you from day 0, and now the one solid thing that you told me I had, you want to take that back and do a return to me on that at this critical time that we're renegotiating and getting a step up on the contract. When he told me it was about all of that renegotiating and that I should trust, I did, begrudgingly, angry, upset. It wasn't right. I did it. He got the stock back. I went on, tried to get over that, kept doing my job, doing what I had to do, delivering everything. And once again, I was caught up in the job. I forgot all about it. And next thing you know, we had the snafu. I was fired. And he just said, oh, okay, bye. And since he had never given me the stock back, He never said that he would pay me anything or give me anything. He just avoided me all these years. Not only did he avoid me all these years, running high and low, I went on and started working with Mary, who the three of us.
According to Curry, the pressure to perform, remain loyal, and stay silent created a culture where artists often felt disposable. Success was celebrated, but concerns were quietly pushed aside. Other voices echo similar sentiments. Roxanne Johnson speaks about the shifting dynamics within the label, describing how trust began to erode as power consolidated at the top. Craig Mack's widow provides heartbreaking insight into the emotional toll that the industry and internal label politics took on artists who once stood at the forefront of hip-hop. Her testimony paints a picture of isolation, frustration,
money, Pac wanted to leave, and it could be some other shit that was going on. But they still created an atmosphere for that. You understand that East Coast, West Coast bullshit. When Suge was trying to use the New York guys to, okay man, come on, let's make some sense of this shit. And have a meeting and sit down with the New York guys and ask for a representative for Puff to come on. Puff was mad. You see now why Puff was mad. Everybody know now why Puff was mad. That he didn't want nobody to come to the meeting because Suge was playing Pay Daddy. Suge was in there playing Play Daddy with Justin. It's crazy. I said, well, how you gonna be mad at Misa and the East Coast, West Coast? And now we see why he was mad. We don't know if Suge sent Puff those pictures years ago. We don't know that. But that's why Puff didn't send a representative when Zipman was asking him, man, let me represent, just let me know. Nah, man, F that. They trying to get a black distribution company, a publishing company, all that. For hip-hop artists and music. Puff and Jay-Z ain't gonna have shit to do with it. And look who get rewarded behind that. So, to answer your question, I think the atmosphere that they designed and made up led to what we know was the East Coast, West Coast war. And both of them had some responsibility
and lost potential. Perhaps most revealing are the reflections of Kirk Burroughs, co-founder of Bad Boy Records. His perspective carries particular weight, as he was involved from the very beginning. Burroughs describes a label that started with genuine passion and creative freedom, but gradually transformed into something far more rigid and unpredictable. Decisions were increasingly centralized, communication broke down, and internal conflicts were often left unresolved. Throughout the documentary,
you say Suge looks over, he sees you. He looks right at you.
Yeah, he looks at me.
Okay. When he looks over at you, and then Tupac's busy getting shot. Evidently, the story is Tupac's trying to either get out
in the back seat or something.
Yeah, what do you see happening inside their car?
I seen a bullet going Suge's head. I thought he was dead. You thought he was dead.
So Orlando started across Dre.
He leaned over on the window. We rolled down the window, popped. They would drove on my side. I would pop them. You know what I'm saying? But they was on the other side.
Recurring theme emerges: fear of speaking out. Several former affiliates admit that for years, they avoided sharing their experiences publicly. Some feared retaliation, others worried about being blackballed from the industry, and many simply believed no one would listen. In a culture where image is everything, challenging a powerful figure like Diddy felt unthinkable. The film does not attempt to portray Diddy as a one-dimensional villain. In fact, it acknowledges his genius, his contributions to hip-hop, and his role in shaping the sound and style of the 1990s and early 2000s. However, it also raises uncomfortable questions about accountability, power imbalance, and the consequences of unchecked authority.
Go into details on that one. Just keep the streets on me. I ain't gonna go into detail on that.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and read from the book.
Well,
So
let them buy the book then.
okay. Well, I'm just gonna read this passage. The shit was on. Tupac made an erratic move and began to reach down beneath his seat. It was the first and only time in my life that I could relate to the police command. Keep your hands where I could see them. Instead, Pac pulled out a strap, and that's when the fireworks started. One of my guys from the backseat grabbed the Glock and started busting back. The first skin shook in the head, and I thought that mother was dead. I had heard some stories, supposedly that Suge used Tupac as a shield when the bullets started flying, but that's some bullshit. Suge was already wounded, and he was the one that got touched. As the rounds continued flying, I ducked down so I wouldn't get hit.
Basically, yeah.
White Cadillac, arm came out the back seat and started letting off.
What went through your head when you saw that?
KPD's 2008 proper agreement, he alleged that Diddy's friend Zip Martin is the one that gave him the weapon that was used to take out Tupac. KPD told the investigator Greg Kading that Zip Martin had a special compartment to keep this weapon in his car that he drove to Las Vegas. And in this documentary, we have Greg Kading confirming that Zip Martin did drive the same type of vehicle that KPD alleged to Las Vegas this night. And then during this documentary, we heard from the former president of Bad Boy, Kirk Burroughs, who alleged during this time, Diddy had him hiring a whole bunch of people and getting cars to drive to Las Vegas. And he is now very curious into why Diddy wanted to do this. And he said, in his opinion, he now believes that Diddy was behind.
As the East Coast-West Coast rivalry escalated, the pressure within Bad Boy Records intensified. Artists describe feeling caught in the middle of a cultural war that was larger than music. What began as competition evolved into paranoia, mistrust, and a constant state of tension. According to several testimonies, the label was operating in survival mode, and not everyone made it out unscathed. The documentary also explores how fame can distort reality. As Bad Boy's influence grew, so did the gap between public perception and private reality. To fans, the label represented luxury, confidence, and dominance. Behind closed doors, however, former insiders describe chaos, emotional strain, and an environment where loyalty was demanded but not always returned. One of the most chilling aspects of the film is how unresolved questions continue to haunt those involved. Even decades later, many of the individuals interviewed admit they are still searching for closure. The losses of Biggie and Tupac left wounds that were never properly addressed, and the documentary suggests that the industry moved on too quickly, prioritizing profit over healing. 50 Cent's role as executive producer is impossible to ignore. Known for his...
There was the rumor that after Pac got Puffy gave Zip $1 million that was supposed to be handed over, and Zip ended up keeping it. And I remember when I interviewed TK Kirkland, who was actually roommates with Zip at one point, they were that close. He actually said, yeah.
The Fed said that too.
He said that actually happened. Well, the story that has circulated was that after Tupac got, Puffy allegedly gave the money.
I heard
to Zip.
Yes.
And Zip was supposed to give the money to Keefe and them.
Yes.
But he never gave the money to him.
But thank God he never gave him the money, right? Think about it. If he gave the money, Puffy will be in prison now, money for hire. So thank God. It's just a true story. I'm not saying yes or no, but if he would have gave them the money, it'd have been for hire and Puffy would be locked up.
His long-standing rivalry with Diddy. Some critics questioned his intentions before the documentary even aired. However, the film's strength lies in its restraint. Rather than pushing a personal vendetta, it allows the voices of former insiders to speak for themselves. 50 Cent remains largely in the background, shaping the narrative without dominating it. This approach adds credibility to the project. The documentary does not tell viewers what to think. Instead, it presents experiences, contradictions, and unanswered questions, leaving the audience to draw their own conclusions. In doing so, it sparks conversation not just about Diddy, but about the music industry as a whole. By the final act, it becomes clear that this documentary is about more than one man or one label. It is a broader examination of how power operates in entertainment, how young artists are often left unprotected, and how silence can become a survival strategy. It challenges the myth that success always equals happiness, and exposes the emotional cost of building an empire in an unforgiving industry. As the credits roll, viewers are left unsettled. Not because every question has been answered, but because so many remain open. The documentary does not offer closure, it offers reflection. It asks whether the culture has truly changed, or if similar dynamics still exist behind today's charts and streaming numbers. In the end, 50 Cent's Netflix documentary stands as one of the most talked about releases of the year. It forces uncomfortable conversations, revisits painful memories, and gives a platform to voices that were once overshadowed by fame and spectacle. Whether viewers see it as an expose, a warning, or a long overdue reckoning, one thing is undeniable: the story of Bad Boy Records and the legacy of Diddy will never be viewed the same way again. Beyond the individual testimonies, the documentary also sheds light on a larger, often ignored reality of the music industry during the 1990s. It highlights how young artists, many coming from difficult backgrounds, were suddenly thrust into environments filled with money, power, and constant pressure without any real guidance or protection. Several interviewees explained that contracts were rarely explained, promises were often verbal, and long-term consequences were barely discussed. In such a system, silence became currency, and questioning authority was seen as betrayal. The film subtly connects these personal struggles to a broader cultural problem: the normalization of exploitation in entertainment. Viewers are reminded that while fans enjoyed chart-topping hits and flashy lifestyles, many artists were privately battling mental health issues, financial stress, and a deep sense of disillusionment. The documentary suggests that these unresolved traumas didn't disappear with time. Instead, they followed many individuals long after their careers slowed down. In its closing moments, the documentary shifts its focus to the present day, asking whether the industry has truly learned from its past. It raises a powerful question for viewers: how many similar stories are still hidden?